1, 2, 3, 4. I'm starting with a beautiful 8.75 pound rib roast. The butcher is gone, removed the ribs, and tied them back on. Let's take the ribs off and talk about them for a minute. Simply cut the butcher's twine and they'll fall right off. I like to remove the ribs off the roast, or you can buy your roast already cut like this. It acts as a shield, blocking the heat and the flavors from your herbs and spices on the outside. Plus, they're a lot better cooked using a different method. One little trick is just lift the roast up, get your finger in there, and you can loosen it up quite a bit, pulling the big piece of fat away from the meat. Take your knife, just give it a little slice. You can see it's just coming off. So just run your finger in there, loosen it up. Now you're left with a gorgeous roast. It's easier to cook because it's nice and round, and it's easier to carve with the bones off. Take 3 pieces of butcher's twine and tie it up. Give it a good coating of kosher salt. Sprinkle it from a little bit above so you get a nice even coating. And just gently pat it in. Wrap up the roast in plastic wrap. Place it in the fridge for 6 hours, letting the salt absorb into the beef. Now we're going to dice up a tablespoon of rosemary, thyme, and about 5 cloves of garlic. With the rosemary, thyme, and garlic all diced up, add it to a bowl with 4 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil. Give everything a good mix. Then place on a layer of plastic wrap and place it in the fridge for at least an hour or 2. To make the rub, start with 3 tablespoons of fresh cracked black pepper. After you have the pepper all ground up, add 2 tablespoons of onion powder, 2 tablespoons of garlic powder, and 1 tablespoon of smoked paprika. Give it a good mix. This is going to make a nice rub for the outside while creating a delicious crust. The rub is mixed and it smells great. I'm going to add it to the shaker bottle so it's easier to apply. To keep a good eye on the temperatures, I'll be using a Maverick ET733. One probe will go inside the roast, keeping a good eye on the internal temperatures, and the second one clips on your grill, showing you the exact cooking temperature your barbecue's at. Today I'll be cooking on the Weber 26.75 kettle barbecue. Let's take a peek how it's all set up. Start with a clean barbecue. Make sure you burned everything off from the last cook. I took a ball of tin foil, just rub the sides to get rid of any excess ashes. Take your probes from the Maverick ET733, run them down through one of the bottom vent holes. Place the charcoal on the barbecue in a C pattern around 3 inches high. Pour it out, and then you can move it around with your hands and make it nice and even. With the charcoal in the C pattern, go around, take the pieces, move them so you got a nice even consistency all the way across. You don't want big air pockets or big chunks. After 6 hours, take the roast out of the fridge and just spoon on some of our herb and oil paste. Rub it on with your hand, giving it a good firm pressing down. Once you have a nice even coating on the roast, take it and wrap it back up in plastic wrap and place it in the fridge for at least an hour. Slice up 1 onion and 3 cloves of garlic and add them to the drip pan. To get the barbecue lit, I'm using a Weber starter cube. Just place it at one end of the C of the charcoal. Place a couple pieces right on top. And it will get going in about 5-10 minutes. Once you have a nice bed of coals started, place your drip pan with the onions, garlic, and salt and pepper on. Add 2 cups of water. Place your cooking grate on the barbecue and attach the probe for the Maverick ET733 that keeps a good eye on the barbecue temperature. Place a 1.5 cups of water in a small pan, place it directly over the hot coals, and get your barbecue set up and stabilized to run at 200 to 225 degrees. Just before getting the roast on the barbecue, sprinkle on a good liberal coating of the rub we mixed up earlier and pat it in. Place on 5 ounces of wood for a little bit of smoke directly over the hot charcoal. Place the roast on the barbecue directly over the drip pan, making sure the fat side's up. Take the temperature probe, stick it right in the middle of the roast. Roast is on, that wood's smoking away. Place the lid on, making sure the vent is directly over the meat. Sit back and let it cook. 1 hour and 20 minutes into the cook. Just move the drip pan over a little bit. Barbecue's sitting at 226 degrees with an internal temperature on the roast of 80 degrees. Shut the lid, let it keep cooking. The method I'm cooking the roast is called a reverse sear. You heat up the meat low and slow, 200 to 225 degrees until you get 5 degrees below your target temperature. I'm shooting for 130 degrees for the internal temperature, then crank up the heat and give it a good sear so you get a nice crust on the outside. After 3 hours and 33 minutes, the roast is at an internal temperature of 125 degrees. Ran into daylight, had to click on the high beams. Pour on a hot chimney of lump charcoal. Spread it around so it's nice and even. If you like au jus sauce, take the dripping pans and strain out the garlic and the onions into a skillet. Reduce this by half. Add in 1 to 2 tablespoons of flour for your desired thickness. Take the roast, place it over the hot coals, keeping a very close eye on it. And continue just to roll it. It's going to make a nice crust, a little bit of a bark on the outside, with a delicious grilled flavor. Prime rib hot off the barbecue. I can't wait to dig into this. Let's quickly check the internal temp. Bang on, 130. Slice into it. This is looking so good. First thing, cut the 3 strings off. Now the moment of truth. Let's cut it right down the middle. Perfect, check that out. Nice charred crust on the outside with a delicious smoke flavor. You can see that's perfect, medium rare. Let's give it another slice. Gotta steal a piece. Barbecue prime rib, hot off the grill, and it's time to eat. If this recipe looks good, be sure to share it with your family and friends, because it's easy to do. Barbecue food for you. Give it a try. It's like butter.